welcome to another Artymous film. This week's film is in two parts. I'm going to talk about the history of animation this week, and next week I'm going to talk about how to make it. Now, you may have seen some little animations in my work. I like working with cut paper, moving things around. That's just a very quick way of doing an animation, but there are lots of different ways to do it. I've also drawn animations and things with clay figures. Unfortunately, I can't show you much of that because due to a laptop accident I lost a lot of stuff. And in fact, this little clip is the only thing left that I have from my time at college. I'm going to talk to you today about some people in animation that are really important but have become a little less well known over the years as some bigger animators have taken over. But they deserve the recognition, so I'm going to tell you all about them today. Firstly, however, I want to give you a little rundown of some of the most seminal moments in animation from the last 100 years. Enjoy! In 1914, Winsor McCay created one of the first keyframe animations. He had a vaudeville act and created small animations which he interacted with. While Gertie was not the first, it is his most famous. Previously, such things have been shown on multiscopes, but this was the first to be on a larger screen, and people marvelled at his interaction with the dinosaur that had weight and breath and seemed to be alive. He claimed that she was trained and would make her lift her foot on command. This is a well-known cartoon, but why is it so renowned when many cartoons had come before it, such as Disney's own Laugh-O-Grams? Other animators of the time, such as Fleischer's Studios, had success with Out of the Inkwell, and Sullivan and Messmer's creation Felix the Cat was also well known. Steamboat Willie, made in 1928, was the third Mickey Mouse film, but it was the first animation to have synchronised sound, and that gave it commercial success. The Mouse That Whistled made Disney famous, and gave him the confidence to move on to his first feature-length animation. That first feature-length cell animation was Snow White. It won an Oscar for its musical score and made headway towards animation being considered an art form on its own, which is what Disney had always argued. Not only was it the first feature-length animation at 83 minutes long, it also used some new and controversial techniques. The first was rotoscoping, invented by Max Fleischer, remember him, in 1915. It involves filming live action and then drawing over the frames of film to create realism. Many animators argued at the time that this was cheating, but it is still used today, most brilliantly in a film called A Scanner Darkly. Go and find that one if you can. It was also the first film to use a multiplane camera, designed for Disney by William Garrity. This is a device that creates depth by laying transparent cells of animation stills at different distances and moves them at different speeds and directions to make the background more realistic and make the animator's job far simpler. I am proud to say that my parents took me to see Roger Rabbit in the cinema. It's an incredibly important film in which live action mixes with animation. This had been done before, but not with such attention to detail. Previously, characters didn't really convince the audience that they were interacting with the environment, but Roger Rabbit was clumsy, bumping into things and crashing about with Bob Hoskins. Remember the scene where he hides in the coat? Animators use the phrase to bump the lamp, and this refers to the animator's ability to create realism through shadows and highlights and the detail the artist employed in this film. It's masterful, and it also has a great plot, which gave it commercial success too. Toy Story was another first, in that it was the first computer-generated feature film. Pixar had created short films before this, showcasing what could be achieved with films like Tin Toy, which was released in 1988 and got an Oscar for Best Short Film. Again, Toy Story has a great plot and a brilliant concept. Every child since has given a sideways glance to their teddy bears in the hope of catching them moving. In this computer-generated method, artists make a 3D model, transfer the knowledge gained to the computer, and then animate the figure. By today's standards of computer-generated imagery, it might seem a little clunky to some, but it was incredibly important. The reason why parts of it look unreal now are because people are so hard to animate. It's extremely difficult to convince the human brain that it's seeing something real, for example, a human face, which the viewer sees and interacts with 1,000 times a day. However, despite this, it's an incredible achievement and was a springboard for the industry. People often think that animation was something that was dreamt up by Western artists, that Walt Disney just woke up one day and decided to create an empire. Of course this isn't true. There are animators all over the world who do things in different ways. Many animators have influenced each other to create beautiful things over the years in different methods and different styles. And a lot of this started with puppetry, with storytelling, which has been very important over the years to tell stories and pass them down through generations. And people have told those stories with puppets, with shadow puppetry, with marionettes. So that was the starting point for animation. And of course, all over the world it has developed and grown in different ways. Seitaro Kitayama is considered to be one of the fathers of anime. He was working in the early 20th century, details are unfortunately both fuzzy and disputed by experts here, creating some of the first drawn animations. Much of his work has been lost, but he's known for both paper animations and some works created on a blackboard with chalk, an easy way to create different drawings and arrays as you go. Kitayama started his own animation studio, from which many animators developed their style and became filmmakers in their own right. Anime became mainstream in Japan in the 1980s with Astro Boy and Gundam. The West began to take notice when Akira was released in 1988, a film by Katsuhiro Otomo, depicting a dystopian future in Tokyo. Studio Ghibli has now broken records with its work, 6 of its works being in the top 10 highest grossing films of all time in Japan. Eastern Europe has a strong history of animation. As a child, I would search out these little films, usually shown in the middle of the night on BBC Two. I had no idea what I was watching sometimes, but it always seemed so much more interesting than the sanitised clean lines and colours of Disney films. It wasn't that I didn't want to be Cinderella too, of course. I think most little girls are programmed that way. But I always thought of the European and Russian films as something more creative, and that fascinated me. Ladislav Starowicz, a Polish animator, used pinned dead bugs to create works such as the films Grasshopper and the Ant. It seems gruesome now, but it was actually very cleverly done. Oskar Fischinger was well known for visualising music, creating work by hanging paper shapes, and he eventually worked, uncredited, on Disney's Fantasia and Pinocchio. Lotte Reiniger was a very important German animator who worked with cut paper, and her work is delicate and beautiful. Her first feature-length film was The Adventures of Prince Ahmed, and she also invented an earlier version of the multiplane camera mentioned earlier. Reiniger always amazes me because her cutouts have no faces, but she masterfully managed to create emotions in her characters through their gestures and movement. One of my favourite animators of all time is a Czech animator called Jan Svankmajer. He was a huge influence on many animators in the second half of the 20th century, such as Terry Gilliam and the brothers Quay, whose work I also adore. His most well-known film is Alice, a retelling of the Lewis Carroll tale. Most of his work is stop motion with physical characters, and some of his work has been shown in the Tate Gallery in London as an exemplary example of animation art. Britain has a strong history of animation, and many of us in this country grew up with children's programmes made by Cosgrove Hall, Oliver Postgate and Aardman Animations. We're a sarcastic bunch in this country, and we've been moulded by the likes of Danger Mouse, Smurf and Bagpuss. Terry Gilliam is another giant in the UK, beginning with short animations to transition between sketches in Monty Python's Flying Circus, and going on to create wonderful films like Zero Theorem and Brazil. We have strong roots in stop-motion animation, and Aardman have become a worldwide force to be reckoned with thanks to Nick Park. Wallace and Gromit's A Grand Day Out was his university project, and he received funding from Aardman to get it completed. I think it's still the best one because it's all fingerprinty and it's brilliantly silly. So, next time you see an interesting piece of animation, have a think about where it came from, who's done it, why they've done it. There are a myriad of different styles from a myriad of different places, so think about what you're watching. It's a beautiful art form. It requires patience, it requires dedication, it requires a steady hand. So think about that 24 frames per second and think about how much work has gone into what you're watching. We need to support animators, so that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to tell you about Sojo Animation. The link to her work is down below. She works with small children, listening to them talk and drawing with them. And she takes those drawings and makes them into a beautiful little animation. She's won awards for her work, so go and check out Sojo Animation when you can.
Big bad wolf. Look. It is me. Who are you then? It's me. Are you the big bad wolf? No. Yes. I am a big bad wolf. Are you a nice one or a nasty one? Nice. I am a good wolf. Please, can I come in? Okay, you can come in. Hello. Yeah. Sojo.
In the meantime, subscribe to this channel and comment below if you've got anything to say. This is a community where we can meet up with other artsy people, ask questions, find answers, ask me anything about creativity, and I will try my best to help. Come back next week for the second instalment where I'm going to reveal some of the secrets of making your own animations. See you soon.